Travis Wayne Goodsell. It's been a long time, and it was probably on my old channel when I talked about becoming an Eagle Scout. So yes, as a Mormon, I was involved in the Boy Scouts of America. I was not one of those who were raped. 3,000, I guess, involved in a lawsuit against the Boy Scouts because the church abandoned the Boy Scouts. But there were many lawsuits against the church as well for that. But yeah, went through all of the different types of governmental systems: fascism, communism, even the Illuminati, the Order of the Arrow. Yeah, you have the Eagle Scout is you are finally become an American. You're no longer the communist bear or the Nazi wolf or the Illuminati Order of the Arrow. You're now an American eagle. I had no clue that that's what he was symbolizing there with the different animals. It came much later when I was going, no, what? Baden-Powell, what was he up to? But I was about to turn 18. Once you turn 18, you're no longer allowed to get your eagle. They make certain exceptions occasionally, but my mom wanted to make sure that I got my eagle, so she pushed the scout leaders in our ward to make sure that I got my eagle. And I did the scout project. As I did my own thing, cleaning campgrounds, which I got the idea from Keith Fenstermacher, who was pissed that I did the same thing he did. But from my perspective, I got the 5 Peaks Award. I even climbed Mount Baden-Powell. And so I thought that was an excellent thing to do to give back to the San Gorgonio, San Bernardino mountain ranges that I had been hiking year after year. Nonetheless, Keith was still pissed. And so I then go in for my interview, and there were 3 leaders on the council, and I have no idea if they were Mormon. We're in Southern California, and so it wouldn't surprise me if none of them were Mormon, but I don't know. And so they're asking me all these questions, interrogating me, and I'm trying to answer the questions honestly, because I have no idea how to answer these questions other than to be honest. I don't know how to manipulate the questions to tell them what they want to hear or anything like that. And it came to the question of, do you see yourself in the future participating in the Boy Scouts of America? So, being honest, as literal as I was, I went into myself and envisioned my future. Just I was asked the question for it. And I saw myself going through the typical routine of a Mormon boy, and going to school, and getting married, and having a kid, and probably having a boy, and putting the boy through a scouting program. And I was about to say, yeah, I can see myself being involved as a father with a Boy Scout of my own, and helping him through the program. And then what Mormons call the Holy Ghost informed me that lifestyle that I was envisioning, that future life that I was envisioning, was not going to happen, and that I would not be involved in scouting ever again. And so I was like, I don't think the answer they're looking for is no. But I couldn't answer the question as yes. I couldn't envision, I couldn't see myself involved with the scouting program ever again. And so despite the hesitation that was involved there, I finally came out and said, no, I don't. And that shocked them. And so they said, okay, go wait outside, we'll discuss it. And it seemed like forever waiting for them as they were discussing it. And they finally came out, and they had to talk about the process, the arguments they went through to make their decision. Because the two guys on the committee were saying, man, he doesn't want to be involved in scouting. He went through all this to say no. Well, screw him. Let's deny him. And it was the woman on the council who said, well, you know, we have the scout oath and the scout law to teach them to be honest. And he was honest with us. And so they decided, because of that reasoning alone, to grant me the Eagle Scout Award. And so here's the Scout Oath. On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country, and to obey the Scout law, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and not gay. Morally straight. We all understood it as not gay. And the Scout law. The Scout law has 12 points. Each is a goal for every scout. A scout tries to live up to the law every day. It is not always easy to do, but a scout always tries. A scout is trustworthy. Tell the truth and keep promises. People can depend on you. Loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, reverent, and not gay. It's not on there. And so those things were taught to me as a Boy Scout. As a Mormon, likewise, I was taught to be honest. I was taught to tell the truth. Because that's God's way. And the church taught me to be Christ-like in all that I do, all that I say, all that I think, and all that I become. And those were the teachings from the church growing up as a Mormon. And then I went to the temple in Los Angeles on 6th of May 1989 in advance of my mission call to New York, New York. And in the temple, they had covenants, the obedience, where women had to obey their husbands, the law of sacrifice, law of the gospel. Sacrifice, you're supposed to kill yourself to defend the church. Law of the gospel, you can't speak negatively about the church leaders. No evil speaking of the Lord's anointed. The law of chastity, you can't be gay. But I won't go into further detail. And the law of consecration, which everything, all your loyalties, all your money, all your property, your whole life is to be given over to the church. Just like you read about in the scriptures of Samuel being born, mother gives him to the temple because she made a promise to God that if she gets a son, she'll give him to the temple rather than raise him herself. What's the purpose of calling God for a baby if you're not going to get to have the baby? And then Mary, also, she was given to the temple, but you can't find that in the canonized Bible. You have to find that in outside sources that were rejected. But lots of stories of people being given over to temple service. And what scared me was not, have I committed any sin that's going to have me cast into outer darkness, but the part where I had to promise to kill myself if I violate any of the temple covenants. Thank God I'm not a woman and be forced to obey my husband, and kill myself if I don't obey my husband. And then it's horrible, because here I was, the church that I was born and raised in, taught to be good and loyal and backed up with the Boy Scouts of America, to be honest and loyal, but good. And here the church was saying loyalty now means protecting us at all costs. And you have to kill yourself if you betray us. If you reveal the secrets in the temple. If you reveal the crimes that we commit. And I was terrified. Literally terrified. I mean, eventually you dismiss it as, no, they can't be that way, it can't be like that, no, that's only for the secret Gadianton robbers talked about in the Book of Mormon, in Helaman chapter 6, verse 22. That's not the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I mean, after all, they've got Jesus Christ in the title of their name. And so, for me, even though I was critical about Mormons who were trying to promote false doctrines in church and such, I came to understand doctrine so well that I was starting to recognize that those of the 70 and even women speakers were also preaching false doctrines. And that started to get disturbing for me, as I recognized at an early age the false doctrines that had been creeping into the church and getting spread around all over the place. But it wasn't until I moved to Utah that I saw the hotbed source of the false doctrines. And as I had been pursuing ancient language decipherment with Paleo-Hebrew and trying to show the church, hey, Joseph Smith actually is a translator. I deciphered Paleo-Hebrew. This is awesome. What else have you got for me that I can work on? And instead, the church secretly blacklisted me for supporting Joseph Smith, which is what I was born and raised to do. As a Mormon, you support Joseph Smith. He's the founder of the organization. You betrayed Joseph Smith, and why then are you Mormon? Didn't make sense, but such is the case. Oh, wow. Oh, okay. That was yesterday. And it crushed me to witness Mormon after Mormon pulling criminal activities of extortions, of threats, of verbal abuse, of violence, right here in Mormon Central, the center stake of Zion, as it currently is, as the headquarters of the churches here. And it was really getting scary as people were desperately trying to destroy and take away my life, liberty, and property from me. Even my own parents. But I understood my parents because they've been betraying me since I was a kid. But, I mean, the concept of calling good evil and evil good has been taken to a whole nother level as people justify darkness in order to commit evil, calling it good and light. It's just horrifying. And so, in the Doctrine and Covenants, section 1, in verse 15, "For they have strayed from mine ordinances." Now it says they. He doesn't really identify who they are. It's understood though, because those who stray from ordinances have to first make ordinances or agree to ordinances. And those who have broken the everlasting covenant have to have the sealing of the everlasting covenant in order to break it. This is Mormons that Joseph Smith is talking about here. That's who they are. For they, Mormons, have strayed from mine ordinances, and Mormons have broken mine everlasting covenant. And so in 16, they, continuing on with Mormons, Mormons seek not the Lord to establish his righteousness, but every Mormon walketh in the Mormon's own way, after the image of their own God. When you're doing your own thing, and even though you're claiming to follow God, you're not following God, because you're doing your own thing. You're creating your own God, the image of your own God. Because if you think that raping women is acceptable by God, then your God is a God who accepts rape. That's really disturbing. If you believe that you murder somebody because they revealed the temple ordinances on YouTube, well, then you believe that your God justifies murder for exposing temple ordinances that involve killing yourself. If you see where we're going with this? Every action we do in our lives projects onto the God we believe in. And if we claim we're worshipers of God, and we commit crime, we commit sin, and I'm not talking about, well, there's sin and then there's sin. There are people who claim sin, and that's how they justify committing sin, is that they claim that other things are sin and not what they're doing is sin. Similar with crime. Well, crime is not a crime when you're a righteous man like I am. When I'm in a position of authority, I cannot commit sin. People voted me in office to commit sin and crime, and thus it's not crime. You're creating your own God. And that's not what I was taught and raised, either in the Boy Scouts or in the church. And as a result, I have become somebody contrary to Mormonism, because I've been born and raised not to be Mormon. Not the current Mormon, anyway. And so as a result, Mormons attack me for not being Mormon like they are, to not being involved in their corruption, in their crimes, in their cover-ups, in their lies, in their deceptions. That they don't call it that way. They don't see it that way. But that's exactly what they're doing when they take away my agency of life, liberty, and property. Because all Mormons know, when you take somebody's life, liberty, or property, you're following Lucifer's plan. And yet there's a wire screwed in that comprehension to think that they can get away with depriving people of life, liberty, and property. Oh, you're speaking against the church? See how that's worded? Against the church. No, I'm saying that bishops telling little kids about sexual behaviors is wrong. It's not against the church. The church is supposed to be against these bishops. Joseph Smith is a translator. How is that wrong? How am I an anti-Mormon supporting Joseph as a translator? Why are you trying to deprive me of my life, my liberty, and my property? Because I believe that, or not believe, I know he's a translator. I go around saying, hey, Joseph Smith was framed, falsely accused of being polygamist. The previous video I just did, Darkness of LDS Prophets Testified as Light by Mormons. I go over, in the beginning, another passage supporting Joseph Smith as not polygamist. And yet Mormons attack me. Not just with thumbs down, death threats. With this lawsuit against the church, which the church taught me to follow the Constitution and the First Amendment, petition the government for a redress of grievances. The church is not immune from prosecution. If they take away my agency, they're not God's church. They're Lucifer's church. And yet Mormons attack me because I'm suing the church. The clerks of the court tried to screw things up to prevent me from winning. The judges have been refusing to do their job and violating the law to protect the church. The lawyers are purposely violating the law, having other people send me death threats to stop my case. YouTube employees, Google employees, my website employees, all purposely throttling my information to protect the church, to deny me my rights to life, liberty, and property, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Back in 2008, I petitioned the government for a redress of grievances, and they turned it around under the church's orders and called it a terrorist threat. And I was disappeared for 6 years of my life. That's why I sued. That's what my case currently is about. And because I caught the church paying the person who signed my life away. They were paying that person. In all investigations, the number one thing you do is follow the money. Robert Mueller knew that. He refused to follow the money. As he said, president can't be indicted. Yes, he can. Yes, he can. But yeah, he chose not to follow the money. Everybody knows you follow the money, because the money will connect the real criminals in the upper echelons of the pyramid of the organization. And I got them. And thus, everybody in the courts are all trying to have me killed. To shut me up, silence me, dismiss my complaint, so that I can never seek justice, never receive relief, that the church will get away with their crimes forever. My videos involve lots of bombshells of the history of the church, of the crimes by the church. You won't find these from any other church critic historian or anybody else. I've got exclusive stuff that I've been bombshelling. And yes, an occasional connection to others who make their own bombshells. But I hope you understand the difference between being Mormon and a Mormon. Mormons are not Mormon. They follow their own God. And their God is evil. Because the fruits reveal their thoughts in revealing who their God is, and it's Lucifer, thus confirming the keystone sign at the arch of the doorway of the Salt Lake Temple, the inverted pentagram that Isaiah talks about and the Book of Mormon plagiarizes. This has been my life. The church set me up for persecution by Mormons, by the church, to try to put me into bondage, to try to gaslight me, and to go against my teachings, to call darkness light, crime not a crime, truth not true, reality not real, evil good. And I will not do it. And as a result, Mormons hate me. They want me silenced. They want me gone. They want me dead. My own people.